Just like winning, losing is a natural part of sports and is one that all teams in the NBA have gone through on multiple occasions. But even while it's not an easy thing to do, losing is often the first part of a long process that ultimately leads to winning on the biggest stage. However, there are also cases in which losing doesn't lead up to winning in a reasonable period, and teams get stuck in a cycle in which they are never able to attain sustainable success. And among such situations, perhaps none is as alarming as the one the Knicks find themselves in. But once again, heading into a season without any expectations of being competitive, New York has signed a coach with a history of lifting teams back into relevance, hoping it'll be enough to get them back on track. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we're talking about the hiring of Tom Thibodeau by the Knicks and whether he might be able to be the one to save the once proud franchise. To find the last time the Knicks were contending for an NBA title, we have to go back to the 90s. Back then, New York counted with services of Patrick Ewing, who, with the help of Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy on the sidelines, was capable of taking the team to the championship round in 94 and 99. However, that era would see its conclusion in the year 2000 after the franchise fell in the conference finals to the Indiana Pacers and traded Ewing away. Since the departure of the Star Center, the team has only made 5 postseason appearances in 20 seasons and has won just 1 playoff series. The team's postseason failures, however, have been moments of relief for fans given that New York hasn't been close to playoff contention most of the time. In fact, in all but one of the 15 years in which they've missed the playoffs, they've finished at or under the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. Their track record since the new millennium started has been by far the worst in its history, as well as one of the worst in the league during that period. However, their fortune has mostly been caused by what takes place outside the court. As must be known by most NBA fans, the Knicks have made multiple questionable decisions when it comes to the hiring of their coaches, players, and executives over time, and a lot of those decisions have been made or influenced by James Dolan, the team's governor. Under Dolan's leadership, the team has avoided going through a full rebuild despite repeatedly missing on most elite free agents, and even David Stern once mentioned how the Knicks were not a model of intelligent management. Still, despite their awful decision-making over the last few decades, this year, the team made a couple of changes that could finally help them establish a winning culture. The first move was firing Steve Mills as team president and replacing him with Leon Rose. While Rose doesn't have previous experience as an NBA executive, he was one of the most respected agents in the league and represented multiple star players and big-name coaches. His past as an agent should provide him with enough connections and experience to land a few free agent interviews in the future. And as the Warriors and the Lakers have proven, it's possible to win a championship with a former agent running basketball operations. Also, since it's probable he understands how the game works on the court, it's hard to imagine him signing 4 starting caliber players that play the same position as Mills did a year ago. The second move the Knicks made to give themselves a chance to develop a winning culture was hiring Tom Thibodeau as their new head coach. Not coincidentally, Thibodeau was one of Rose's former clients, which should mean New York's coaching staff and front office should be on the same page more often than not. That alone would be a good improvement. But unlike Rose, Thibodeau has plenty of experience in the league and is currently regarded as one of the best coaches in basketball. Tom's NBA career started in 1989 as an assistant coach with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then a few years later, he had his first job with the Knicks as an assistant coach from 96 to 2004, before joining Van Gundy in Houston from 2004 to 2007. At the time, Thibodeau was already considered as one of the best assistant coaches in the league, and Van Gundy described him as someone brilliant. However, the best was yet to come for him. His next stop was in Boston, where he became an associate coach to Doc Rivers and developed an innovative defense that helped the Celtics become one of the most dominant teams in the league. With him on the sidelines, Boston won the 2008 championship and came close to a second title in 2010 before falling against the Los Angeles Lakers in Game 7 of the finals. Still, his effort earned him the respect of the league, and by the summer of that year, he landed his first job as a head coach with the Chicago Bulls. At that time, the Bulls were a young team that was trying to establish a winning culture and have its first deep playoff run since the retirement of Michael Jordan. Still, while they had some pieces to work with, no one was expecting what the team would do under its new coach. During his first season on the sidelines, Thibodeau helped the team establish itself as one of the elite teams in the league by developing a defensive and hardworking presence that earned them the best record in the 2010-2011 season. Under his leadership, Derrick Rose became the league's youngest player to win the MVP trophy, and the Bulls made it to the conference finals for the first time since 1998. However, the most impressive things Thibodeau did for Chicago came in the following years. In the next season, the Bulls finished with the best record in the Eastern Conference and were again expected to make a deep playoff run. But sadly, their season would be cut short after Rose suffered his first major injury during the first round. The former MVP missed all but a few games in the following 2 seasons because of injury, and without him, the team was expected to fall out of the playoffs contention. However, Thibodeau and his players had different plans. Behind the leadership of their coach and the emergence of Joakim Noah as an MVP candidate, Chicago remained as a competitive team and made the playoffs in each of the seasons Rose was unavailable. Then, by the 2014-15 season, with a healthy Rose, the emergence of Jimmy Butler as a star, the addition of Paul Gasol, and one of the deepest rosters in the league, the Bulls were once again considered a championship contender. In the end, they fell in the second round of the playoffs against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, but were the only team in the Eastern Conference that was able to take a win away from them. But despite the promising results of the season, Thibodeau was fired after his relationship with the team's management deteriorated to the point of no return. Still, while the conclusion of his time with the Bulls was not the best, he led the team to its most successful run since the Jordan era, something later coaches have not been able to replicate. He also had a great impact on the career of the players he coached at the time. Noah, Butler, and Luol Deng became all-stars, thanks in large part to the way he helped them develop their games. Rose also had his best season to date, and even Gasol enjoyed one of the best seasons of his career under his leadership. Thibodeau took a year off after being fired by Chicago and then returned to the sidelines after being hired by the Minnesota Timberwolves. At the time of the hiring, most people thought the coach was the missing piece to unlocking the potential of Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, and Karl Anthony Towns. But despite the three young players enjoying a career year under his leadership, the team was unable to finish the season with the winning record. Therefore, also being the team's president, Thibodeau made a trade to reunite with Butler that caused the departure of LaVine and made Towns and Wiggins take a step back. Still, the move helped the Wolves return to the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. But soon after, Butler realized he wasn't comfortable with the situation, which ultimately led to a troublesome episode for the team and caused Thibodeau to lose his job. At the time, reports were saying his relationship with the team had deteriorated, much like it did with the Bulls, and that some of his players, including Town, were uncomfortable with his coaching style. Still, regardless of whether his relationship with some of his players was not the best, the truth is that the Wolves have been unable to finish with a winning record since firing him, just as it has been the case with the Bulls. But now, even while some may point to his time in Minnesota as a reason why people should not consider his hiring by the Knicks as a good move, the truth is that there are multiple reasons why fans in New York should be excited. First and foremost, his relationship with Leon Rose should bring much-needed stability to the franchise. Since Van Gundy stepped down in 2002, 12 different people have occupied the head coach position, with none of them lasting more than 3 seasons and a half. Still, with a few exceptions, Thibodeau brings far more credibility than most of the coaches that have preceded him, so if he's able to develop a solid program and Rose is capable of making a few smart moves, the reputation of the franchise could finally start to improve, just like it happened with the Lakers. Second, he's the first coach with the winning record to be hired by the team since Mike D'Antoni. And while it's probable he won't immediately be able to turn the Knicks into a playoff contender, his experience should help them get a few more wins and take a step forward. Last but not least, his experience developing players should help R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and the rest of the team's young players improve on their games. Perhaps even players like Kevin Knox and Dennis Smith will get the chance to show what they're capable of doing. Altogether, considering the way New York had been handling things, the signing of Tom Thibodeau seems like one of the smartest moves they've made in decades, and it could end up being one that helps them get back on track. Of course, it doesn't mean the Knicks will be excellent next season, but still, even if they show some signs of improvement, it'll be safe to say they might finally be on the right path. That is, if, hopefully, they ignore the idea of trading everyone for an aging star during the offseason. But now, do you think Rose and Thibodeau will be able to make things work in Madison Square Garden? Or will it be a matter of time before the Knicks fall back to their old ways? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel so that you can receive more excellent NBA content. We are Courtside.